Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And I hope I don't tire you out with the lists that we have in the next week and a half or so. So yesterday we just had upcoming Kickstarters in July. That was already a list. Today we're going to have the top 10 games of 2020. I'll explain the criteria there shortly. Next week we're going to have 3 list videos. It's going to be a lot. We're going to have games leaving the collection, as I usually do at the beginning of the month. And then we're going to have we're going to have a 4th one, I guess. We're going to have games leaving the collection. Then we're going to have, later in the week, we're going to have 2 videos broken up into 2 parts of games I added to my collection in the first half of 2021, stuff like that. And then we'll have a what I backed. So a whole bunch of lists coming. Apologies. I need to figure out a way to have them not all match up at the exact same time. That is neither here nor there. Let's focus on this list for today. So first of all, just before I even cover what the list is going to be and all that, we are going to have 11 games on this list. I'll explain soon enough. I have an excuse. I always do. But the top 10 games of 2020. This was a video I wanted to do, well, in January 2021. But I had so many games from the 2020 games that I wanted to get to the table, that I wanted to play, and so I pushed it off. I figured I'll push it off a bit, we'll get it played, I'll get some more games in, and the list has definitely shifted up and mixed up because of that. There are still more games from 2020 that I want to play. There are still more games for that 2020 published date that I haven't got to the table, some of which I own, that aren't eligible for this list because I have to play them in order for them to be the top games of 2020. That said, it's 6 months into 2020, so I figure we'll go ahead and start us off. And starting off with number 11. Number 11 is not going to be on the table at all, and the reason number 11 is because I don't own this game. In fact, it's not really available to get yet. Number 11 is going to be Anno 1800 by Martin Wallace. This is a game that I've played twice now on Tabletop Simulator, and it's a game that I will be getting as soon as I can get my hands on a copy, but it's not currently available to the US market just yet. Anno 1800 is delightful. It's a little bit of a mess when you first walk into it. It's a game that's all about building production chains. You get something, that thing is essential so that you can get something else, that thing's essential so you can do something else. You're constantly trying to build up a variety of buildings that do different things. But the fun part of the game, because it's important, there's never enough space in your production areas to actually have all the means of production. And so to that end, you're going to have to rely on others in this game. You're going to have to rely on the fact that player A over here got these things and player B got those things, and I'm going to use player A's thing over here. I'm going to pay them for the privilege, don't get me wrong. And then they're going to go ahead and use player C thing. Player C thing's going to use player B's going to use myself. You're playing off of each other's production queues. So as you build out these queues of this leads to that, this to that, this to that, it's going to continuously chain off of everyone else. You're thinking through not just what you want, but what others want as well. I've played a lot of games that have production queues that are a lot of fun to go through. Le Havre, one of my favorite production queue games of all time, is limited in the sense that your production queues are primarily yourself. You have buildings you can share with others to a degree, but not in the same way, not in the same interweaving aspect that Anno 1800 does. It almost reminds me a bit of Brass from Martin Wallace, in the sense that you're focusing on thing A, and you'll use things from person B and C because it helps you on thing A, the lead, the coal, all of that in Brass. And this one feels like it took that concept and made an entire game out of that concept. It is absolutely delightful to go through. I'm very much looking forward to actually playing it, but until I've played it in person, and ideally have more than 2 plays under my belt, that's why it's number 11 on this list. It would be higher, but I gotta play it more and in person first. But with my 11th pick out of the way, let's start off with my number 10 pick, and this is going to be counting down. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1. Number 10, not there. Sorry, ignore you saw that. Number 10 is going to be Dune Imperium. And when I put together this list at the beginning of the year, this was higher, but things have come along, and I've had a lot of games I have to pick from. Dune Imperium is going to be a game. This is going to be one of the 3 games in the worker placement deck building genre. I've done a full comparison of this, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and Endless Winter. And Dune Imperium, I really enjoy this one, but it is my lowest of the 3, and it's my lowest of my favorite games of 2020. Still a good game. I mean, there are a bunch of games that did not make the cut of this list, a bunch of games that I really wanted to squeeze into 10 games, but you can't do that. Dune Imperium is amazingly fun and tense as you go through the worker placement aspect of the game, as you take your unique character and try to figure out where you're going to place your people. Are you trying to go for like a bit of a sand engine? The economy in the game is a little bit stagnant in the sense that very often you have to go through the same cycle of get the spice, then turn the spice into this, and then get the water, and get the water, get the spice, and then use that to get more troops. It has a bit of a economy that is stale, which is why it's my least favorite of these games. But past that cyclical economy, which you have to kind of lock yourself into, the ways in which you plug yourself into that economy, those are different. The ways in which you choose to go up different worker placement tracks, up different houses, of which abilities you choose to execute on, of how you build out your deck, those are all unique. You might build out a deck that rewards you for going to the spice in the spice market more, not the spice market, the sand or whatever it is, the desert, more and more often. You might build up different markets that reward you for burning cards, for utilizing different benefits and abilities, for trying to take advantage of getting the influence on the various tracks, for winning combats. There are a ton of ways you can develop this strategy. Granted, again, the resource economy is kind of stale, but the rest of the game has a lot of pathways and decisions around it. Every time I've played Dune, it's been an enjoyable and tense experience. It often does come down to, it's paced well. It very often comes down to those last few rounds, and then someone finally gets a 2-point plan that pushes them over the 10 points, and they ultimately win the game. But along the way, you're fighting over control for influence of the various houses, for the various benefits you'll get along the way, building out a deck that gives you the freedom to explore and maneuver the way you want, while also not being so overly large and obtuse that you don't have the necessary components pop up when you want them to pop up. Dune Imperium is an excellent game. I'm not interested in the upgrade pack. I feel like it's just me. Every time I talk about the game having subpar components, people are like, but the upgrade pack! And I'm like, the upgrade pack doesn't look good to me. I'm all about the bling. I'll get anything that has bling in it. I have a problem that I need to control. The upgrade pack just doesn't appeal to me in this game. Which brings us to our number 9, Whistle Mountain. A messy game to be sure. By the way, just for the record, none of these boxes are going to match up to the back properly. It's a curse. It's not a curse, it's just luck of the draw because I don't try to make them match up. But Whistle Mountain. Whistle Mountain is a messy and delightful game. By the way, both of these I have reviews for. I would say most of what I'm covering today I have reviews for, but not all. Whistle Mountain is a game that I had the opportunity to play this. When was my first play? I think my first play was either early 20... I don't remember when I played it first. What I do know is that Whistle Mountain is a lot of fun. It is absolutely messy in what it's doing. I got this game because Jeremy Howard was raving about it, and when Jeremy Howard raves about something, I tend to pay attention. I don't always agree, but I pay attention. And in the case of Whistle Mountain, I absolutely agree. This game is a delightful mess of worker placement as you take your blimps and you place them around the board to try to gather the various resources you need. But what you're really trying to do is you're playing a bit of a polyomino game as you build the scaffolding up. It's basically, you're kind of in a valley, you're building your scaffolding up, and then as you build the scaffolding up, you can build buildings on top of those scaffolding, and those buildings is where the mess starts to occur. And I say mess with a great degree of fondness when I use the term, because the mess is that everything in this game is going to give you abilities. Everything in this game is going to give you resources again and again in different ways. But you're trying to manage the fact that there is a limited resource storage you have. You can't have more than 4 of any one resource, so having too much of one thing doesn't really help you. You're trying to manage that along with the idea of where to place your various machines, where to place your blimps, because you can place it here and it'll give you this, this, and this, but you can place it here and it'll give you this, 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 and this. But this, this, and this, and this can be more easily turned into that. But if I get those gears, because if I want to upgrade my tableau, and I'm going to upgrade my tableau across the course of the game, so I'll have gears that reward me for having more water. So water is more beneficial, but if I go here, I'm blocking you. That's the spot that's better for you, and it still gives me 2 water, so it's kind of worth it. There are a million different things to consider because everything in this game gives you stuff. This is like point salad in a way. Everything gives you stuff. It's a question of what gives you the best stuff. Do you want to go to the cards to gather more cards? Those cards can be helpful because they have lots of fun, cool abilities to use. But you only have 3 worker placements before you have to recall your blimps. And so you have to factor that in. Do you want more scaffolding? Because scaffolding is helpful. It gives you points. Do you want more buildings? Buildings are helpful. They give you points. They also add to the mess on the board. They also slowly accelerate the end game because as you build buildings, the water line's slowly rising. And if it ever crosses too high, well, game end will trigger. But you're trying to also manage the bonuses along the way. There are so many different things going on in Whistle Mountain. I love this game. It is so much fun. It's messy. Very messy. But I adore the mess that it gives me. I adore the puzzle that it gives me. I don't need an expansion just yet. I haven't even come close to fully exploring the variety of content that this game has. I would still get an expansion if they sell one, but I just don't need one yet, if that makes sense. Number 7, 10, 9, 8. So that happens when you throw Anno 1800 in the mix that throws off your count. Number 8 is going to be the newest game on the list to me, and that's going to be Paleo. Paleo, a game with a box so white, is going to make the rest of the frame turn a little black, because that's what cameras do. And again, this box has the wrong side on it. Paleo is a game that is the most recent addition to this list. This is a game that I've had the opportunity to play it a bunch of times with Quacklope. I've only played with Quacklope so far. I need to play a more of a 3-play game, 4-play game. I will have a review on this eventually. I don't have a review yet. Again, this might be the only one I don't have a review on. That's pretty Impressive. Wow, this is the only one I don't have a review on, so it is the newest game to the list. But Paleo is a game that is going to be very reminiscent of Friday. If you've ever played Friday, you know, the Robinson Crusoe solo game. Paleo feels like that, but in a cooperative atmosphere, because you're basically this Neolithic tribe, and you're working together with these other tribesmen to basically other very nomadic tribes to try to survive the hunger, the mammoths, the various forest fires, whatever it is that's going to try to kill you. Everything is trying to kill you in this game. And like Friday before, you're kind of dealing with these hazards as they come up. And if you don't deal with the hazard, it comes back into the deck. If you do deal with the hazard, you weed it, but you weaken yourself in the process. So it's a constant balance of improving yourself versus getting rid of the bad things, because they keep cycling back in the deck, and you're going to have to deal with things sooner or later. But Paleo gives you more nuance. It gives you these modules, the story, this kind of feeling of trying to survive as you get your tribe to a certain point, as you figure out the puzzle. I haven't figured out the puzzle yet, by the way. I've lost every game I've played so far. But every game I've gotten a little bit further. Every game I've gotten a little closer to figuring it out, which reminds me of the first times I played Friday. Friday was a game that I first played it years ago, and then I got rid of it because I thought, how could anyone ever win at this deck building puzzle? It feels so immensely punishing. But then I got it back one day, and I kind of played it enough, and I figured it out. And now when people say, hey, Friday's just way too hard, I remember the feeling, because I had that feeling. But I no longer have that feeling myself. So I kind of remember that, yes, when you say Friday's too hard, it makes sense. But it's also not too hard. I play it at the harder levels, and it's super easy. I've seen the puzzle, and I figured it out. And every time I play Paleo, I feel like I'm a little bit closer to figuring out that puzzle. Keep in mind, the modules. The game comes with a bunch of modules, and they have difficulty levels. We're playing on the easiest difficulty level. So even once we do figure out that module, even once we do figure out the pattern of what we need to do, of how we need to weed our deck, when we need to encounter that hazard, all you do next is you up the ante. You add more modules to the game, you add more difficulty level, and now you have a new puzzle to encounter. I don't know. I think Paleo is the kind of game that if I do finish the final module, I think I'll be finished with the game. But I think it's going to take a lot of plays for me to get there, and I'm really enjoying the cooperative survival aspect along the way. Number 7 is going to be Monumental. Another whitish box. Monumental, and number 6, by the way, is also going to be a white box. I've got a bunch of very white boxes today. Monumental by Funforge Games. This is a game that I almost got rid of, and honestly, so far, Jeremy Howard has a fairly decent presence in this list. We got Whistle Mountain because of him. Paleo I didn't get because of him, but I finally tabled it because he was talking about it. He hadn't actually played it, he just was talking about it. And then Monumental I almost got rid of, but I kept and gave a few more plays because of Jeremy, and I like it. I like Monumental a lot. Now, Monumental is going to be an over-the-top game. I can't show you the box. I mean, it's still misaligned, but it doesn't show you anything interesting. But Monumental is going to be a deck-building 4X abstracted game. It's going to be all about building your little engine. Think Dominion. You're going to have a tableau of cards, a 3x3 row of cards, and every round you're playing cards to that. You're playing it, you don't choose where they go out. You just lay out the cards, but then you choose which row and column to activate. So you activate these 3 cards and these 3 cards, and that's your resources for the round. Then you replace those cards, you deal out more, and you're constantly trying to manage the little puzzle there. It takes up a lot of table space, which is one of my complaints about it. I have reviewed this game, and, well, I like it, but it takes up a lot of table space. It's one of the problems with it. But past that, the core central engine has a lot of fun as you try to move your people around the board, as you try to build up your wonders, as you try to fight others. Now, I found the combat lacked a certain tenseness, and I still feel that way, because you don't really kill enemy units so much as force them to retreat. It's not the same feeling. Now, there are house rules I've been using in terms of managing, in terms of making it feel like combat can matter a little more, in terms of stretching yourself a little further, in terms of being more punishing. Because one of the problems in the game is you can only stretch as far as your units allow you to, which means you can only really push someone so far back. I don't love that aspect, but Monumental, past that little lack of area control, past the table space, the production quality is gorgeous. The deck building is rewarding. The Heroes and Monsters modules are fun. I have backed the African empires. I have, sadly and unfortunately, backed the ridiculously large Titans because they're ridiculously large miniatures, and I like large miniatures, and this is what it is. But yeah, Monumental. Monumental is a lot of fun. Haven't played it in a while, but I need to. In fact, I would say from this games, Paleo is the most recent addition to the list. Monumental is going to be the furthest back that I've played from the list. Which brings us to number 5, which is going to be Nidavellir. Nidavellir, and again, apologies, but if you flip it this way, now you can see everything. Nidavellir is going to be a bid building kind of system. Over here in Nidavellir, what you're basically doing is you're trying to gather cards, and all the cards, again, I have a review of it, but and all the cards are effectively going to be giving you points. It's a question of which card path you want to go down. Greens are going to reward you more and more, purples are going to reward you more and more, orange are going to reward you more and more. You're getting the feeling here, they're all going to reward you more and more. The more you have any one of the 5 card types, the better you will score. And that is the puzzle of Nidavellir, because you want to get these single pathways of a certain type of card, but you get bonus extra cards if you get one of each type. There's 5 colors, and when you get one of each type, you then get bonus cards. So you're kind of playing this game of, you want the one of each type so you can get more bonus fun thingies, but if you go deep, then you get a lot of points. So you're trying to balance a little bit of both in this game, and along the way, you're bidding for those cards. Every round, you're going to have markets you're going through, and you're bidding which card you're going to get. You have to choose where to focus your energy, which one's more likely, because then you flip the bid, and you may have overcommitted to the spot where someone else went higher than you anyway. The good news is along the way, you're building up your bids, your bid building, so to speak. Your coins are getting progressively more powerful as you're able to spend them more and more. They'll be worth points at the end of the game too, but it'll give you more buying power during the game, which is the main point of them. Lots of fun things to manage. I do have the Nidavellir expansion for this game. I need to play the Nidavellir expansion for this game because one of my complaints about Nidavellir is I can see it getting stale the more you play this game. I can see it falling into the trap that many games have fallen before for me. Games like Splendor, games like Century Spice Road, games that I love the simplicity of the little engine building puzzle, but then I play it enough times and I'm like, and now I'm done with it. It was good. It was great. I recommend it. But I'm done with it. So I'm hoping Nidavellir keeps this one fresh for me. I am enjoying it still, and Nidavellir should hopefully only add to that immersion. Which brings us to number 4, 3, 2. This is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Number 5 is going to be Marvel United. And this one I don't have a box for because we got the empty box, and that's because I've compressed these all in a way that the miniatures are just standing in the box. And if I flip the box on the side, my miniatures are falling left, right, and center. So you just got the front of the box today. But Marvel United is so much fun. And I wrestled with this one. I wrestled with this one a lot because I genuinely believe that if you remove the theme from Marvel United, if you take away the theme, I believe I would never play this game. But theme is still part of a game. The theme, the immersion is still part. Even though I kind of want to say that the mechanics should be first and foremost, really what should be first and foremost is my enjoyment of the game. Whatever reason that might be, whether it's because it's an over-the-top ridiculous miniature that adds to my immersion and I like it and I like shiny plastic, that's fine. If it adds to my experience, if it makes it more enjoyable, it's good enough. And this is more enjoyable. It has cute chibi miniatures. It has Marvel. I love the Marvel characters. I love running around the board as various characters in this game, as being Wanda and Vision playing together against whoever you're fighting against today. I don't know, Bullseye. And then having the different villains and all the different little puzzles of the way the board runs, it plays out. And the card play is simple. It's engaging. But I love this game so much because I have played this successfully with my 5-year-old. I have played this successfully with my wife. I have played this successfully with my game group. I have played this with a new gamer who really struggles with harder rules. I have played this with a variety of different types of people. And all of them have found it enjoyable to different degrees, to be fair. My wife probably the least so, which is sad. She's okay with it. She did say she'll play Marvel United X-Men with me though, so there's still hope yet. But I enjoy it. I haven't played it solo yet. I don't know if I would. I think it's a little too late for me to want to play it solo, for me to be tempted by playing it solo, but maybe I'm kind of tempted to now. Marvel United is a lot of fun. The card play is engaging. The card play is simple. It's easy. It's fun. It is a light game, to be very clear. It's a light game with modules that will enhance that difficulty. They'll enhance that complexity. But for the most part, it's a light game. But I have a ton of fun with it. So it's not going to lose points just because it's a light game. I have to delicately place that one because otherwise it's going to just be collapsed. Nothing's going on top of this, to be very clear. Number 4. Yeah, 4. That's the one. Number 4 is going to be Kingdom Rush. Kingdom Rush. Kingdom Rush is a game. In most of these cases, if I have a smaller box, I chose the smaller box. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, I have a review of Marvel United, by the way. I have a review of Kingdom Rush. I have reviews of all of these. And Kingdom Rush is going to be a game. Nothing that interesting on the back here, sorry. Kingdom Rush is going to be a polyomino tower defense game. I have a full review of this game. This is going to be from Lucky Duck, and they have Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising, which was on Game Found this past year, which I covered that as well. But Kingdom Rush is a game that it's fun because it's a really thinky, solid puzzle. This game would be higher on my list, except right now the barrier to pulling it out, setting it up, and playing it is annoying. I don't like pulling it out unless I'm getting a minimum of 3 or 4 games in, so I have to know that I have that block of time to play it 3 times. Because pulling out all the pieces, pulling out the tiles and the tokens and the setting up the token trays, all those things are just frustrating. I don't love it, which is why I'm looking forward towards Elemental Uprising, where they will have the bigger deluxified boxes, which are meant to be all compatible, and pulling out your hero trays and making it more accessible to pull this one out and just get it to the table. I'm hoping it really solves the problem because Kingdom Rush to me is a really amazing game with a little bit of a barrier to entry that hurts its appeal to me. So I like it. I don't play it as much as I should, but the core gameplay, for what I talked about it briefly, is polyomino tower defense. It's going to be a cooperative game. I've mostly played this solo, but I have played it with my wife, my kid, a friend. So I played a 2-3 player. I've not played it with 4 player. I'd be hesitant to do so. Even 3 player I found is a little more than I want, willing to, but more than I want. but the game involves you and other players taking your towers and playing them down to various tower locations that are all going to fire little polyomino pieces at trays of incoming invaders. So you have these invaders slowly coming towards you round after round, and you're trying to survive the wave. It's, like I said already, a tower defense game. And the different games, depending on whether you play Kingdom Rush or whether you play Elemental Uprising, they'll have different aspects to them in terms of the way they handle different things. Kingdom Rush has portals, Elemental Uprising has events. I prefer the events, but I also prefer the simplicity of Kingdom Rush. So there's parts of both games that I prefer, which is why I'll have both of them. But I really enjoy it. This, to me, is my highlight of Lucky Duck games. Although Destiny's might be up there. Destiny's is more accessible. We're not talking about Destiny's today. Destiny's is a 2021 game. But I will move on to my number 3, because counting, and that's going to be Super Fantasy Brawl by Mythic Games. This is another instance of, I left the big box behind me up there, so in case you were like, oh, it's going to be on the list. Oh, no, it's up there. It is on the list because I didn't want to bring that ridiculously big box to the table. Super Fantasy Brawl is another one that I have a review on, like I said already, with the exception of Paleo, which I will have a review on. Everything here has been reviewed, but Super Fantasy Brawl is a lot of fun. It's 2 players going head-to-head. I think there's a 4-player mode, but it's 2 players going head-to-head in an arena, picking 3 heroes, just combining the cards together. There's 6 cards each. You have an 18-card deck, and just play the cards to activate the heroes, to move around, to smash each other. But the more important part is that it's not all about smashing each other. In fact, more often it's about the positioning and the execution of basic objectives in the game. Those objectives are going to be so key. You're going to be trying to knock people out so you can be next to the blue towers or whatever it is you're trying to do to get into their spawn zone and then survive until the start of your turn. You can get giant chunks of points, 2 points at a time you can get in a game that only goes towards 5 points. So it's about that execution. It's about trying to position yourself well and not so much about killing someone, which is hard and only gives you 1 point. It's often, I would say not as often, every time I've ever played this game, it has been far more points have been scored from objectives than from the killing of other players, which is why I like it, because it gives you that fury, that might, but the might is more about the intimidation. The might is more about the fear and the tactical nature of not wanting to die too often because it will power up your opponents. So you're kind of playing that defensive game, but ultimately it all comes down to the actual objectives at the end of the day. My number 2. And I have gone back and forth with my number 2. In fact, when I last ordered this list in January 2020, January 2021, it was the reverse. But my number 2 is going to be Under Falling Skies. Under Falling Skies, a game by CGE, and yes, the box is upside down. What did you expect from me? That's going to fall out. Under Falling Skies is going to be my favorite solo game from 2020, I guess. And it's a game you could play cooperatively, but it's a game that I do play solo. It's one that I've only played solo. I only want to play it solo. I don't really love the idea of 2 people just making decisions around a single set of things. If you're going to give me a cooperative game, give me a cooperative character, give me a role, give me some reason why it's actually cooperative and not just solo. I have played it cooperatively. I just liked it more solo. It's a game where you're rolling dice and then using those dice to trigger abilities, all about basically defending yourself from an invading swarm of spaceships and little like flying craft trying to attack your base. The problem is the higher the dice, the better the abilities, but the higher the dice, the faster the enemy ships are advancing. So you're choosing when to roll, when to re-roll, and when to go for smaller numbers to slow the advance versus when to go for larger numbers, because you can tactically plan and position yourself around executing perfect synchronized attacks on the enemy, because you can take out the enemy. So if they advance fast, that's not a problem as long as you're planning well around it. So you're trying to manage your energy, you're trying to manage your digger going slowly deeper into the cavern, you're trying to manage your research because ultimately you need to finish researching them to kill them. This is a game that feels like Independence Day, the board game. That's what it is. It is giant spaceships invading Earth and little alien craft that you're trying to defend yourself, all while ultimately trying to figure out how to get a soda can into the alien ship to just go boom. That's Under Falling Skies. It has a bit of a it has a bit of a campaign mode to it, which I've never finished. I've started it like 3 times. I keep going through it and then restarting, but I've never actually finished it. I keep diving into the game and I keep enjoying the game. Haven't actually finished the campaign mode just yet, but I'm not in a rush to do so. And lastly, my number 1. Do you know what my number 1 is? Because it's my number 1, but you may not know it. But my number 1 is going to be by CGE as well. And that's going to be Lost Ruins of Arnak. CGE has had a good year for me. Oh, look at that. The box is actually on right for this one. My number 1 actually got it right. So, CGE, Czech Games Editions, has had a good year for me between Lost Ruins of Arnak and Under Falling Skies. They are my 2 favorite games from 2020. The games that this one most surprised me because I wasn't even looking forward to this one at all. This was not on my radar in the slightest. Whereas Lost Ruins of Arnak, I was interested in because it was compared to Endless Winter. It had deck building worker placement, and I had just gotten off the high of Endless Winter. And Lost Ruins of Arnak, I assumed. I played this game and I thought, oh, CGE is putting out another deck builder worker placement. It's just probably not going to be that good. It can't be that good, right? And it is that good. It's like this many points behind Endless Winter for me, although I still have to play Endless Winter again for me to know that for sure, because it's been a long time. Lost Ruins of Arnak is a lot of fun. I've done a review of this. I've done a playthrough on the channel with my wife. I really enjoy this one. I still do another playthrough on the channel with my wife, because I like playing this game a lot. I always want that 6th round. I always want it to be a 6th round so I can get just a bit more done. I've debated house ruling a 6th round in. I ultimately just don't, at least not yet. I played this at 2 and 4 or 2 and 3. I played this at 2 and 3 players. I have not tried it at 4 yet. I'm not in a rush to try it at 4. I'd probably try it at 3. And more players will add more locations to the board because of the very nature of the game. As you're adding the board, you're effectively exploring the jungle. You're adding locations to the board. And then when you're in those locations, you get trapped by the monsters. You have to deal with the monsters. So it's a bit of a balance and a push and a pull there. Now, 2 players will be a tighter, shorter game. So a 2-player game will give you most of the fun of a 3-player game. You're going to explore fewer locations, but you're going to save a third of the game time because someone else isn't playing with you. But either way, I'll happily play it at 2 and 3. I'll happily play it at 4. I really enjoy Lost Ruins of Arnak. Looking forward to tabling this one again. It is a lot of fun, thoroughly enjoyable. I heard there's an expansion coming. There's also a solo campaign. I haven't played that, but there's an expansion coming to this at some point. I will absolutely be getting that because I want more from this game. As much fun as it is, the cards are slowly getting a little, not stale because I enjoy them every single time, but more predictable, more repetitive. Still enjoy them. I still love the fact that you can get these cards that are super powerful, that you can go to this location, activate that ability, get 4 extra coins, tons of fun things to do as you build up your engine. Across 5 rounds, you'll cycle through your deck a surprising amount of times. I love Lost Ruins of Arnak. It is my first favorite game of 2020. That's basically it. That is going to be my favorite games of 2020 list. Like I said already, there are a lot of things that either didn't make the cut or that I haven't played yet. If you want to see them, feel free to comment down below with whatever it is you want to see, and I'll tell you if I either played it. Like Honeybuzz is a game that just missed the cut, and as well as like 15 others or something. Like there's a lot of games that I wanted on this list, and a lot of things that moved off. The Crew I knocked off. The Crew's technically 2019, but came out, it wasn't really available, so it's a 2020 game. Lots of things did not make the cut, and lots of games just haven't been played yet. Until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. Like I said already, this is going to be the second of a variety of lists over the next week and a half. It's just that time of year, you know, between mid-year and end of year, there's just a lot of things going on. In either case, and until next time, as always, have a good one.